Hi, I'm Nicky. I'm a British textile artist living here in southeast Spain. My work explores the relationship between identity and place, and I'm working towards my first public exhibition. So I'd like to use this opportunity to give you a flavour of my work, and I'd also like your feedback, so please leave those in the comments. So this is the first piece of work I want to show you, and it's a simple paper weaving, but it was very influential because it's where I realised that I could communicate with colour, and I'm using it in this example to represent cultural mixing and diversity through colour gradients and accents. And from this work I then took it forward and I developed it into 3D structures, and I used different materials. This is also an early sample, and it's made of Esparto grass and plastic, and they're both important because Esparto grass is an historic material from this part of Spain, and plastic bottles that I've repurposed are associated with the contemporary, with the tourist industry. And this is also based on an historic artefact, the Esparto sieve, and that's where the spiral comes from. So this is the third sample, which obviously leads on from the one I showed you before. And here I'm thinking about scaling it up and making it more suitable for a public display and giving it more impact. And what this made me think about as well is the whole way that the sample interacts with its surroundings, in particular with the sky. But I've also explored the way it moves around, and I'm thinking that if I use multiples, then that would make an interesting installation. So whereas the last sample had a fun toy-like quality, this one feels a bit more serious because of the way it's constructed and the colours. What I was trying to do here was to get away from the regularity of the spiral and introduce these more engaging negative shapes. And my idea for this would be to join several of these and to look at colour gradation across a larger surface. So this is the fifth example, and it's a piece of work that I've already displayed in public. It's made of Esparto and plastic, and it's designed to resemble tumbleweed. Also important, it's the proportions of the colour reflect the proportions of the different nationalities in the town. I like the way it moves, the way it catches the light, but it's not big enough to have enough impact. So I'm making a large frame so I can make a larger example for public display. So this is 6, and it came about as a result of making the geodesic sphere. And I had all these little sections that I was testing, and I just put them on the ground, and I noticed that they were making an intriguing textured surface that was making me think about the construction industry, but also it had a creeping and growth type of feel. So I want to make a really large area of this and maybe put it at the walkway in the public park. So this is number 7, and it's a flatter version of number 5, which was the one that was the sphere that was based on tumbleweed. And it's allowing me to examine colour dispersal in a more subtle way over a wider area, and also transparency and negative space and the orientation of these pieces. And those different orientations I'm using to reference the weave patterns of historical Esparto grass objects. So most of my samples are made from Esparto grass and repurposed plastic bottles, but this time I thought I'd swap out the bottles for swimming pool noodles. And I've joined these cross sections with Esparto, and I've made this large piece which works very well when it's floated in water like a swimming pool or a fountain. And again, it's making use of the environment to enhance and form part of that artwork. So number 9 is the same construction as the geodesic sphere. It's paper straws and brass fasteners, but I wanted to go back to a simpler construction, and so I started with a square grid, which is based on my experience of nets that I saw in the museum, which reference the fishing industry. But what I've done here is I've removed some of these struts to make a very mobile structure, which I'm still exploring the potential of how I can use. So this sample also very much reminds me of construction, And it came about from the last idea where the joints were flat. And what I've done here is make them three-dimensional by giving them a height, making them out of toothpicks. And this is a very early exploration of this idea, but what I'm liking is the potential that it's given me for exploring colour dispersal in 3 dimensions. So for this piece of work, this was based on the metaphor of cultural porosity, and I'm examining physical porosity as a way of exploring that. So the different materials have different absorbencies, they wick the dye differently, and the weave also affects how the colours are dispersed. At present, this is obviously too small to display in a public art setting, but it's something which I'm in the process of developing and examining on a larger scale. And I also did some analysis of some audio files that I recorded all around the town, and I'm looking now at how I can project those computer visualizations onto these weavings with dissimilar materials. Well, that was a quick run through of my work. Please drop any feedback that you've got into the comments. I'm going to end with some stills of the park where I hope to display my work.